Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is going to be about year-end IRS reporting tips to help you stay compliant for your trucking business. We're going to go over some things that you are going to need for one of the most common forms. I'm also going to be providing you with some insights and some directions based on what I have learned from helping people get their information in order at the end of the year. If you do have any questions or anything like that during the webinar, please use the Q&A section or the chat box to let me know. And then we'll go ahead and wrap up with a 10-minute Q&A session here at the end. A little bit about me. My name is Sebastian. I am the product manager at TruckLogics. We're doing a series of webinars about the year-end compliance stuff. And if you have not already registered for the rest of the webinars in the series, the next one is coming up on Monday. And then the last one is coming in towards the end of the month. So if you do need some additional information, please feel free to go ahead and register for all of the additional ones or give me a call directly. Our support team in Rock Hill, South Carolina is happy to help answer any questions that you have. And you can always reach out to me directly if you do need me or have a question. Please feel free to just call and ask for me, or anybody else on my team is also able to help you. Okay, so today what we're going to be going through is we're going to be going through first what you need to file one of the most common forms, which is a 1040 with a Schedule C. After that, we're going to go through where to find your information. We're just going to kind of go through a couple of different scenarios, well, actually 3 scenarios, as to where to gather this information. If you are currently in operation, your paperwork might be diffuse, so just some helpful tips on where to get that stuff. And then after that, we're going to go through some tips for checking for accuracy. One of those things might be just to make sure that everything that you have recorded, regardless of whatever system that you're using, is all accurate. After that, we're going to go through a couple of things that are commonly missed in this time of year, things that you may have forgotten or left to the side or may have misfiled, that kind of a thing. We'll go through that. And then at the end, we're going to go ahead and give you some additional information about how to reduce and or eliminate human error using a system that plugs in directly to things like your fuel card and stuff like that. At the end, we're going to go ahead and wrap up with a 10-minute Q&A session. So if you guys do have questions and would like to ask us a question live over the air, you can use the raise hand function when we get to the Q&A session to get my attention, and then we'll go ahead and unmute you and let you go ahead and ask your question live over the airwaves. Okay, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. One of the most common forms that you're going to be filing is going to be a 1040 with a Schedule C attachment. This is most commonly filed by sole proprietors and single member LLCs, which is the most common form of business in the trucking industry. So this is the form that we typically like to focus on and the form that we like to talk about. You're going to need a couple of different things in order to make sure that you are ready to go ahead and get this form filed at the end of the year. So the first one is income statement and balance sheet. It's a very fancy way of saying you need a profit and loss report. You need to know all of the income items in and all of the expenses out. No matter where they came from, if they were business expenses, you should have some record somewhere of every single cent that you have received and every single expense that you have made throughout the entire year. This information is required to complete the form. Next up, you're going to need all of your receipts. The reason why you're going to want to save all of your original receipts for your business expenses is just in case, if God forbid, there is ever an audit. All of your receipts will also be used to verify the expense information that you have gathered and aggregated on your profit and loss statement and your balance sheet. Depending on which system you're using or how you're actually keeping track of this information, you're really going to want to make sure that all of your information is in one spot when you get ready to go do this. Okay, inventory records. This is a very common one that is missed. Inventory records or assets, that kind of a thing. You're going to need information on all of those. This is used to calculate things like depreciation or to calculate how much you actually own in assets. That information is required to file that 1040 Schedule C. So if you do have inventory, like you buy and sell freight, you're going to need all of your inventory records as well. For a trucking operation specifically, you're going to need all of your mileage and other vehicle records. Okay. One of the reasons why is you need a records of all the other tax payments that you have made. You're going to need records of your IFTA filings. You're going to need records of all the mileage that you traveled. This is going to also help you with the fuel that you've burned, the taxes that you paid on that fuel, that kind of a thing. I've said previously in other webinars, like with regards to IFTA, everything kind of all comes out in the wash. With the federal government, it's a little bit different. So what you're going to need is you're going to need to make sure that all of your information is in one spot. And then when it's time, that you can go ahead and pull all of this out. Now, another very commonly missed one is going to be the 1099 NEC or non-employee compensation form. This should be filed by your business and will be mailed to you by the end of the calendar month of January. We're going to go over that in our next webinar, which is about coinciding deadlines and your requirements to file for all of the coinciding deadlines that are coming up in January. But if you do work as a contractor and have been paid more than $600 from a company to do work for them, they are required by law to file that 1099 NEC and supply you with a paper copy. So when you get that in January, you're going to need that to also file your 1040 with your Schedule C attached. So don't lose that. Make sure you keep track of each one of the forms that you have received for all the income that you have generated, regardless of source. And again, make sure all of your receipts are in one spot. Next up, where is my information? I would probably get about a half a dozen calls a day in December from people asking where their information is. The things that I had mentioned on the previous slide you're going to have to figure it out. So let's go through a couple of scenarios together just to kind of figure out where you're going to go to look for this stuff. So the first one is, are you operating on paper? Do you not have electronic records? Do you not have a system in place? Are you just keeping everything kind of like in the manual snail mail kind of a method? So if you are, there's very, very common places where at least in my experience, I've learned that truck drivers like to stash their information. It's either a shoebox, a store plastic bag, or an accordion folder filled with paperwork underneath the passenger seat of their truck. That's going to have everything from receipts to BOLs to invoices to pay stubs to check copies, whatever it might be. If you have an office, your filing cabinets, your drawers, wherever you stuff information. In really very bad situations, I've had people like have to go back into their laundry hamper and find the receipts that they left in their pockets from fuel expenses that they've made. Paper is the worst system to use, in my personal opinion, simply because if that piece of paper goes missing, that's it. You don't have any records of what you did. I mean, you might, if you used a credit card, that kind of thing, you might be able to go back and fish things out. But if you're using a paper system, you're going to want to grab all of the stuff out of your truck, check your glove box, under your seat, check your file cabinet, check your drawers, check wherever you store receipts. If you have, like me, if you have like a mail bowl where when I walk in the door every day, when I get home from work, I throw my mail and my receipts in that bowl, and then I itemize them at the end of every week. That might be a good habit to adopt. Next up, are you using Microsoft Excel? If you're not using a system that was designed to track and record your income and expenses, and you're using a system like Excel, you're in much better shape. There's a couple of things that you're going to want to do that I would recommend to make sure that your information is safe and secure and nothing happens to it. If you're using Excel, Excel is on the computer that you're using. If you have a phone or a tablet or a PC and you're using Excel, the only original record that you have is on the device that you're currently using. So God forbid that computer gets bricked for some reason, there goes your information. My recommendation would be to use a document sharing software. Google Drive is free. All you need is a Gmail account. You can go ahead and get up to 2.5 gigs worth of storage on Google Drive. You can just drop all of your documents in there. And the benefit there is if somebody actually goes in or you provide access to somebody, they can go in and make changes directly onto the sheet. So it makes it easier to share your information with things like your CPA or your accountant or whoever's helping you file your taxes at the end of the year. But again, the shortfall with using Microsoft Excel is your information is in one spot traditionally. So if your information or your computer or whatever it might be is damaged, that's it. Your information is gone. It also makes it significantly easier to calculate out things that you're going to need, like your totals. So what you're going to want to do is take a look through the help information in Excel or Google Sheets to learn some of the actual most common formulas, things like sum or average, that kind of a thing. That's going to make your life significantly easier. If you start using the formulas within Excel, you can actually have it do most of the work for you, and then you simply need to fill in the blanks. But again, that's going to require you to learn a little bit about the formulas that Excel or Google Sheets use. So make sure if you do need it and you are using Excel that you check out that help information. Last but not least, TruckLogics. Of course, we're going to be talking about TruckLogics as a system to store your information because that's what it was designed to do. With your TruckLogics accounts, you're ahead of the game. There's a couple of things that you're going to need to make sure are in place. Otherwise, you don't really have much work to do in order to make sure all of your information is in the system. First, you're going to want to check your document section. As part of the normal dispatching, load entry, and income and expense recording process within TruckLogics, you are going to be uploading documents, copies of receipts. You're going to be uploading copies of your invoices or your rate confirmations. All your original records should be on your TruckLogics account already. There's a couple of places that you're going to go to look for it. If you're looking for a specific document in your document section in TruckLogics, click on the TruckLogics documents folder. That folder contains everything that our system generated or anything that was uploaded. Use the filters up at the top to find what you're looking for and then download, print, fax, or email directly from that screen. Another thing that you're going to want to be able to have an insight into and know where it is, the reports tab in your TruckLogics account. In your reports tab is the profit and loss report and your year-end tax report. Those are the two reports that you're going to need to get across the finish line for your 1040. In most cases, all you need is just those two forms. You can run those on demand anytime from within your TruckLogics account. You click reports, you click profit and loss report, you define the date range, and you select the units that you would like to pull the profit and loss on. Once that information is on screen, you can then print that information out or save it as a PDF and then email that out to whoever needs it. The year-end tax report was based upon a 1040 Schedule C. So the year-end tax report is actually going to break that information up into the parts that you have, right? It's part one, part two, that kind of a thing. That information is already aggregated into the parts and into the lines that you're going to need to go ahead and just enter. But before you go ahead and just start typing away to get your information into your form and filed with the IRS, you're going to want to check for accuracy. So I'm going to give you some tips here on how to make sure that your information is accurate. Ultimately, you are the arbiter of your own information. You are the end source. If you say it's accurate, then it should be, right? So just make sure that you're double checking, triple checking, that kind of a thing. And there's a couple of things to help you. So all of your information, was all of this entered by hand, right? Did you type in your information? Did you use a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet? That kind of a thing. If you did do all of your things by hand, there's one thing I always recommend: audit yourself. Now, traditionally, you're not going to be able to do a full and complete IRS audit on yourself, right? You're not going to know what they're going to want to look for, because specifically, or when you are audited, they specifically look for things that they need to verify the accuracy of your information. So they may ask you for a particular thing. For yourself to run a quick audit, you're simply going to take a bunch of different receipts, a bunch of different income items, and just check it. Just make sure that everything is accurate, that all the numbers match, that kind of a thing. The next thing that you're going to do while you're doing this audit, you're going to follow an error trend. Okay. What that means is every now and then I've had to review a IFTA report where the person typing it in was typing in the information and then hitting the decimal place, right? So it's trying to add a decimal. So it's trying to add a percentage of a gallon or a piece of a gallon or a piece of a mile, that kind of a thing. But what had happened is every time that they were actually typing it in, the IFTA does not accept a part of a gallon, right? It's always rounded up or rounded down to the nearest whole gallon or nearest whole mile. So they didn't realize that they were doing this, but they were typing in like 5,800 miles instead of 580 miles because they were trying to enter in a decimal place. If you see a trend, like every time somebody fuels up at this gas station or this truck stop, they enter in their fuel wrong. Or every time you've recorded income from this particular factoring company or this particular customer, you entered in, a processing fee as its own separate line item, but the processing fee changes. It might be variable, that kind of a thing. Go back and check it, but go back through each one. right? Now, you may have to go back through 10, 12, 15, 20 of these at a time. But the idea is if you pull a thread and it comes loose and it's an error, you're going to want to follow that through to its actual natural conclusion. So if it ends up being that you have to check every receipt that you've ever received from a particular driver or every invoice that you've actually recorded for a particular customer, there's no harm in giving yourself that extra work now, because if you are subject to an audit, you're going to have to do it all anyway. So again, follow those error trends. And then here's the best part. So you're auditing yourself, you're following your error trends, but here's the thing, only do a percentage of what you have. If you have, say, 1,000 fuel expenses, check 100, right? Or check 50. Pick a number and then check that amount. After a certain amount of checks, you'll realize, okay, I did everything good and we can just kind of move on. The idea is you don't necessarily need to go line by line, row by row, transaction by transaction throughout the entire thing, simply because even an IRS auditor is not going to do that. Okay, they're going to ask you for specific information. So check a percentage of the actual whole amount. If you got 25 fuel expenses in the entire year, which would be odd, I would, I'd probably check I would probably check about 5 of them and then move on to the rest. Okay, so don't go through thinking or sit there thinking you have to check every line and every single transaction. Don't worry about it. Check only a percentage of them. Okay. If you're using a system, you're going to be in much better shape than if you're keeping your information on paper or Excel. What you would see here would be something like QuickBooks or TruckLogics or something like that. Those are the systems that I'm referring to. Now, the systems that are out there, like QuickBooks, like TruckLogics, these systems come with tools. They come with things like ours comes with the profit and loss and the year-end tax report. QuickBooks might come with tools to help you aggregate your information into a P&L statement or a balance sheet, that kind of a thing. If you are paying for a system and you are currently using an electronic system to help you with this stuff and keep your information accurate, use their tools, take advantage of what they have. Also, ask them for help. TruckLogics is happy to help you any way that we can. I'm pretty sure if you called QuickBooks, it might be a different procedure to get a human being on the phone, but I'm pretty sure if you ask them a question, they're more than happy to help you with the system. Okay. They may not be able to answer specific tax questions or provide you with tax advice. However, they might be able to walk you through getting the information that you need to produce your balance sheet. And then you can use your balance sheet to help file that 1040 Schedule C, right? So again, use the tools for the systems that you currently have in place. And never, ever, ever worry about asking for help. There's no harm in asking for help. If you don't know something, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Just go ahead and ask it. Okay. Just a couple of common things that you may have missed. I did mention previously that a lot of my fleet managers who are also truck drivers and my truck drivers themselves have a couple of habits that they've got, used to over the years about how they record their information. So the first question you should ask yourself when it comes tax filing time, did you record everything? And this means absolutely everything. If you spent company money on a 50-cent cup of coffee, did you record that somewhere? Did you write that down? Did you enter it onto your Excel spreadsheet for your expenses? Did you enter it into your TruckLogics account? It may seem innocuous. It doesn't matter. It was 50 cents, right? It's just a gas station coffee. It does matter. Every single penny of business expenses and every single penny of business income should be recorded somewhere. You should have a record of it no matter what. Double check, triple check, make sure everything is in there. You don't want to go be, going through your filing cabinet at the end of the year and go, oh, here's a whole list of receipts that I never typed in. Double check to make sure that everything has been recorded somewhere on your paper system, your electronic system, whatever it might be. Okay, when it also comes time to send your information to your preparer, if you are using a pay preparer, if you are using a tax consultant, if you are using a CPA, don't get bogged down in like a long, complicated email exchange with them. You're going to want to make sure that you know everything that you need to send them in order for them to complete what they're doing for you and send that all immediately as soon as you can. January 1, you should have everything ready to go and should just send it out to whoever your preparer is if you have one. Okay. If you're not using a preparer, you just need to make sure that everything that you need in order to file yourself is in place. Okay. And then the last thing that I always ask everybody to check is everybody's business is a little bit different. Everybody is operating a little bit differently. You may not file a 1040. You may not file a specific form that we're talking about today. If so, no worries. Go ahead and check for your upcoming deadlines. Okay. What forms do you need to file? Make sure that you are aware of all of the deadlines for all the forms that you need to file. We're going to discuss in our next upcoming webinar about coinciding deadlines in January. There are a bunch that you're going to need to pay attention to. If you're not sure, again, take advantage of your tools, take advantage of your resources, reach out to TruckLogics. We also have industry experts who can help you with business tax filings as well, called tax bandits. If you ask me a question and I can't answer it, I have people in my building that I can go and ask that exact same question to and get you the correct answer. If we can't answer it, no matter what, we'll find out who can and then send you to them or give you the information you need to reach out and get the answer to your questions. Okay. Always be absolutely 100% sure about any deadline that you have coming up. Okay. TruckLogics, this is going to be the end solution for this type of thing. Making sure your information is in one centralized location, making sure it's easily accessible, and making sure that you can pull all this information back out without too much difficulty. TruckLogics is going to help you with that. Okay. One of the best things about our system is our reports are on demand. You do not have to submit information and wait for us to build you a profit and loss report and then send it out to you a little bit later. I know there are some companies out there that operate that way. Our TruckLogics system functions on demand. Put in all your information and hit the button for your profit and loss report, and there it is. You don't have to wait for it. You don't have to request information. Okay. So again, get your reports on demand. When it's time to search for a specific thing, okay, this can be the greatest nightmare that you're going to have to deal with when it comes to filing this form at the end of the year. You need a specific amount in a specific section of this specific form. So you need to search for all transactions that occurred for a particular date range. Okay. You're going to need to total them up and then type them into that box that you're filling out. Okay. Here's the thing. If you're using like a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, how do you know? If you're keeping everything on paper, again, how do you know? Then you also have to translate your paper information into a set of digital records and then get your totals and stuff like that. With TruckLogics, it's completely different. You can search by income or expense category, by date range, by truck if you want to, even by driver if you need to. You can pull all that information into one view, export it to Excel so you can easily work with the numbers if you need to. You can export that information, email it, print it, fax it, download it, all that fun stuff. So if you do have a paid preparer who's helping you, you can send that information directly from it. The point I'm getting at is if it takes you longer than 30 seconds to get to the information that you're looking for, that's too much time. You should be able to quickly drop into an expense sheet, quickly drop into an income sheet, and pull the information or the transactions that you need directly. Okay. Another thing that's going to also help you, and this is what we are recommending to help you eliminate human error. Take advantage of the integrations that TruckLogics has. Okay. So the first one that we do have that's going to help you out a lot is our integration with EFS and Fleet One. If you do have an EFS or a Fleet One fuel card, you can batch import up to 3 months worth of transactions at a time. You're getting that feed directly from your eManager account, which comes directly from EFS and Fleet One. So what you're doing is you're removing the human being in the middle. So nobody has to swipe the card and then write down how much they spent on fuel. You wait for your transactions to settle, and then you pull that information in directly to your expense list. So you eliminate the human in the middle. So there's no chance that the information could be inaccurate because no human being ever touched it to introduce any human error. You just go ahead and pull that directly off of your fuel card, and that's how you're going to go ahead and get that information right into your expense transactions list. Take advantage of that kind of stuff wherever you can and whenever you can to eliminate as much human error as possible. Okay. Last but not least, I just want to close out with this one message before we move to the Q&A session. Ultimately, with this type of stuff, year-end tax filings, year-end reporting, getting all of your information for the IRS and for your state, it is your responsibility. You must absolutely know all of the requirements that you need to comply with in order to remain compliant. Okay. If you ever got stopped by a cop and you said, oh, well, I didn't know what the speed limit was. Ignorance of the law is not a defense against the law. If you do not know, that's a problem. You need to go educate yourself. And that's what we're here to do. Okay. If you need a contact phone number for a specific IRS department, or you want to talk about, the IRS requirements for the end of the year, give TruckLogics or Express Truck Tax a call. If we can't answer the question directly or redirect you to the correct location, we're going to go ahead and get you the person that you need to speak with to get the information. Our phone numbers are down here, Express Truck Tax and TruckLogics. Again, if you need to contact anybody at the IRS, you have a general question, or you would like to learn more about what you need or how to get your information gathered up and ready to go for your year-end tax filings, just go ahead and give us a call directly. We also have TSN America. They're our full service department. They can help you with things like your 2290 and your UCR. If you have questions about that stuff, go ahead and give them a call. Okay. I appreciate everybody taking the time to join me this morning. I know it's the end of the year and it's holiday time, so everybody kind of wants to get their business done and go shopping and then get home to their family. So we're going to open it up to questions and answers at the moment. If you do have a question, please use the Q&A box or the chat box, or you can use the raise hand function. Okay. There are a couple of questions in the question box. I'm just going to make sure that we read them out so that everybody who did ask a question, we give that information to everybody else. So an anonymous person asked if there was a QuickBooks interface with TruckLogics. Yes, there is. The QuickBooks interface, the way that that works is you're going to be building your income, your invoices on the TruckLogics side and then exporting them over to QuickBooks. So if you're using QuickBooks as your system to ultimately track your information, that is where you're going to want to go ahead and export all of your information to. You link the two systems together. So it's in the integrations page of your TruckLogics account. Once the two accounts have been linked together, you're going to go ahead and start exporting your invoices. You can export them one at a time, or you can export them all at once if you would like to. Once that information is over on the QuickBooks side, you then just need to make sure that your information for your expenses is in there as well to get you an accurate balance sheet. QuickBooks Online might have ways for you to upload that information or to import that information. I would go ahead and reach out to the QuickBooks team directly to figure out if they have any materials that you could use to get that information in and make sure that everything is good to go. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, do we have a webinar? Or Lana asks, do we have a webinar for the QuickBooks integration and use? We do not have a full webinar for the entire QuickBooks solution, but we do have a few YouTube videos, and it looks like Caleb, my associate, had already sent you a couple of videos on how that works. So what these tutorials are designed to do is walk you through the entire integration process. And then we also have a couple of videos that are going to walk you through how to actually enter in all the rest of that information. Okay. We also have another new question in. Okay. Anonymous asks, can I get an example of inventory records? Would someone who only hauls freight need to take inventory? Now, okay, that's a great question. Now, if you're an OTR guy, you're an owner operator, and you work as a 1099 via a contractor, it's very rare, if ever, that you're going to have what would be considered inventory by the IRS. Inventory would be like if you're a freight reseller, or you actually own a warehouse, or your trucking operation operates out of your warehouse. That's the difference, right? So if you have a business and you sell like flooring or tiles or paneling or whatever it might be, and you buy from a manufacturer and you store in your warehouse, and then you ship from your warehouse to the customers that you work with, that inventory specifically is what they're talking about. Okay, you would need those inventory records to file that 1040 with the Schedule C, right? As a traditional OTR freight hauler, short hauler, long hauler, you don't have inventory. There wouldn't be anything that you could consider inventory. So you're not necessarily going to need to find inventory records. If you're an owner operator, if you're a small fleet and you just haul freight, you're just an OTR guy, no worries. You don't really have to look for inventory records because those don't necessarily apply to you. Okay. Let's see here. We got a question here from Eli. Eli, how easy is it to migrate from Mint to TruckLogics? Mint is owned by QuickBooks. Eli, I'm going to actually have to take a look into Mint. I'm not 100% sure what that system is or what it does. However, there are a couple of people who have moved from QuickBooks or QuickBooks-like systems over to TruckLogics. The reason being is you have to pay for features on QuickBooks and the level of access or the amount that you pay is determinant to your amount of features, right? So, sometimes what people will do is they'll use the TruckLogics system in lieu of something like this. That way they have all of their information in one spot. But there is a difference between what you would call TruckLogics and what you would call accounting software like QuickBooks or Xero or NetSuite or whatever you have out there. TruckLogics at its core is a true business management tool, right? We call it a master dashboard. It's designed to do much of almost everything that you're going to need, except for something like a very complex accounting function, like connecting to your bank account to do a bank reconciliation against your credit card expenses for the prior month. That's not something that TruckLogics can do at the moment, but it is something that all of those accounting softwares can do. So if you do need to, migrate from your existing system to something like TruckLogics, you just need to do a proper analysis of what you're going to gain and what you're going to lose. So Eli, the way that this is going to work, I am going to follow up with you afterwards so we can have a brief offline discussion to figure out what it is that you're currently using that system for and what TruckLogics can do for you to make sure that, you don't lose anything, right? The idea is your new system you move to should be an improvement on your current system, not you shouldn't lose too much of anything. Okay. That looks like we are good. No more Q&As and no more chats. Again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to just go ahead. We're going to go ahead and give it about 30 more seconds to see if anybody has any last minute questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Okay. I don't want to leave you guys with too much dead air, so no worries here. We're going to go ahead and just move on. This is our closing statement. Get in touch with us. If you have a question, you want to chat, you want more information, you want to make sure that you're on all of the upcoming webinar registrations, give me a call. 704-234-6946 is our main support line. We're open 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, Eastern Standard Time. We're also available 24/7, 365 at support@trucklogics.com. Email me after hours, over the weekend, whatever you need. We're happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Again, this is Sebastian from TruckLogics. I want to say thank you. I appreciate everybody for joining me. What we're going to be doing is following this up with an email to everybody with a copy of the full webinar. We'll also post that live on our YouTube page. So this way you can go back and view it at your leisure. But again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to give me a call directly or to email me. I'm happy to help you any way that I can. All right, guys, thank you for joining. Have a great one.